Rick Harrison, the man millions know from the hit TV show Pawn Stars, is not just a businessman anymore. His name has suddenly become a headline in one of the most unexpected and shocking news stories of the year. Known for his calm and clever way of making deals in his Las Vegas pawn shop, Rick was someone who built a huge fan base over the years. People watched him every week, smiling, bargaining, and sharing stories behind all kinds of strange items brought into his shop. He wasn't just a TV star. To many, he felt like a friend. That's why when news broke that he had been sentenced to life in prison, the world almost stopped for a moment. It was one of those moments where you hear something and your mind just says, "Wait, what?" Fans were confused. People thought it was fake at first. Some said it had to be a prank, or one of those fake articles that go around the internet. How could Rick Harrison, the man who taught people about history and business on television, end up being sent to prison for life? It didn't make sense. And that's exactly why it made people so curious. Everyone wanted to know the truth. What really happened? What did he do? Was it all a mistake, or had he been hiding something all these years? The story felt like it came out of a movie. A man who looked so normal, so trustworthy, suddenly being taken away by police and standing in front of a judge. The courtroom was quiet, the cameras were off, but the internet was full of people asking questions. Nobody had seen this coming. Rick had always seemed clean. He didn't have the usual drama you see with some other celebrities. He wasn't partying all the time, he didn't get into fights, and he rarely even showed up in the news outside of his show. That's what made it even harder to believe. People who followed his show started to dig up old episodes, trying to see if they had missed something. Was there a hint in his past? Was there a moment where he showed a darker side that no one noticed? The more people looked, the more they realized how little they really knew about the man behind the counter. It was strange how someone could be on TV for years, talk to cameras almost every day, and yet still have secrets that big. Social media exploded with questions. Was it about money? Was it something personal? Did it involve the business? Some said maybe someone close to him betrayed him. Others thought maybe he took the fall for someone else. No one knew for sure, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just a small crime. A life sentence isn't something that happens easily. For the court to make that kind of decision, it had to be serious. People started sharing old clips of Rick giving life advice, talking about being honest in business, and teaching others about the value of trust. Suddenly those words felt different. Some people felt betrayed, others still couldn't believe it. A few fans even said they would stand by him until the full story came out. That's the kind of person Rick was to his viewers, someone they didn't just watch but respected. The shock wasn't just about the crime, it was about who it happened to. When you see a celebrity in trouble, you might not be surprised. But when it's someone who never showed signs of trouble, someone who seemed to live a quiet life, it hits harder. That's why this story is so powerful. It makes you wonder what people are really like when the cameras are off. It makes you ask if you can ever really know someone, even if you've been watching them for years. Some fans remembered how Rick always spoke about working hard and staying out of trouble. He often said he had seen a lot growing up. That life had taught him hard lessons. He came from a tough background but managed to build something successful. His story was inspiring to many people who watched Pawn Stars, not just for the items but for the journey of a man who made it on his own. That's why this twist in his story feels almost unreal. As the news kept spreading, more and more people started paying attention. Not just fans of the show, but regular people who had never watched an episode in their life. Everyone loves a good story, and this one had all the parts: fame, mystery, downfall, and the feeling that something big is still missing. The internet is full of theories, guesses, and discussions, but no one knows the full truth yet. Right now, the only thing we know for sure is that Rick Harrison has been sentenced to life in prison. What led to that point is still a mystery to many. The courtroom documents, the details of the case, and the reasons behind the sentence are slowly being revealed, but people want answers faster than they're coming. Everyone is watching, waiting, and wondering what will be revealed next. Because this story isn't just about a celebrity going to jail. It's about trust, surprise, and how quickly life can change, even for someone who once seemed to have it all. Rick Harrison was not just a random guy who became famous overnight. He worked hard for many years before the world even knew his name. Most people know him from Pawn Stars, the popular TV show that made him a household name. But his story started long before the cameras showed up. Rick grew up in a world that was not always easy. He came from a working-class family and learned at a young age that life doesn't hand you success. You have to earn it. As a teenager, Rick faced many struggles. He had health problems when he was young, which kept him at home a lot. But instead of wasting time, he started reading books and learning things that most kids his age didn't care about. He developed a deep interest in history and old items. This interest would later become one of the biggest reasons why Pawn Stars became so successful. Rick could take an old item, look at it and tell you something fascinating about it. People loved that. It made the show feel more than just business, it was like getting a lesson in history with every episode. His business skills were also sharp. Rick and his father opened the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, and they started from the bottom. It wasn't easy at first. The shop didn't have a lot of customers, and there were many days when they thought it might not work out. But Rick didn't give up. He kept pushing, kept learning, and slowly the business began to grow. They worked hard to build a good name in the city. Customers began to trust them because Rick had a way of being honest but still making smart deals. When Pawn Stars started in 2009, everything changed. The show became a hit almost instantly. People liked the mix of funny moments, serious talks, rare items, and family drama. Rick became the main face of the show. His calm way of handling tough situations, his clever comments, and his knowledge about almost everything made people respect him. Viewers felt like they were learning from him while also being entertained. Rick's personality played a big role in the show's success. He didn't act like a flashy celebrity. He wore simple clothes, spoke in a straightforward way, and didn't try to show off. That made him feel real to people. He wasn't like the stars in Hollywood. He was someone you could imagine meeting in real life, someone who might help you fix your old watch or explain the story behind a World War II medal. Even off camera, Rick lived a quiet and steady life. He didn't get involved in big scandals or create drama on social media. He spent time working at the shop, talking to customers, and enjoying time with his family. He even wrote books and gave interviews where he shared his thoughts about life, business, and staying honest in a world that often isn't. That's why it shocked people so much when news came out that Rick was sentenced to life in prison. How could someone with that kind of background end up like this? That's the question everyone started asking. If you look at Rick's journey, it's not just the story of a businessman, it's the story of someone who rose from a tough place, worked hard, built a strong image, and won the trust of millions. So when that image broke, it didn't just break quietly, it shattered. Some people started wondering if there were signs all along that they missed. Maybe in some of the episodes there were small clues about stress or pressure building behind the scenes. Maybe there were hints in his interviews where he talked about problems in life or challenges he couldn't talk about. But most fans said the same thing. Rick always looked like he had control. He looked like someone who could handle anything. And that's what makes this part of the story so interesting. How can someone who seems so stable suddenly fall apart? Was it one mistake, or was it a series of choices that slowly led him to this point? Was he hiding a part of himself from the world, or did something happen that pushed him into a situation he couldn't escape from? These questions keep people curious, because no one wants to believe that someone they trusted could change so much. And yet life is full of surprises. Rick's past was full of lessons, struggles, and success. But maybe it was also full of pressure that no one could see. Being in the spotlight isn't easy. Millions of eyes watching your every move, judging you, expecting you to always do the right thing. It can be too much for anyone. That's what makes the story even more tragic. Rick Harrison wasn't a perfect man, but he tried to live a life that looked clean, honest, and inspiring. And now with one court decision, all of that has changed. People are now looking back at his life, not with admiration but with questions. What was going on behind the calm smile? What led him from being a trusted TV figure to someone standing before a judge, hearing the words life sentence? Maybe the answers will come out in time. Maybe we'll learn more about what really happened. But for now, the story of Rick Harrison's life has taken a turn no one could have seen coming. It reminds us that no matter how well we think we know someone, there's always more going on than we see. The story of Rick Harrison has taken an unexpected twist, one that no one could have predicted. The news about his life sentence in prison spread quickly, leaving fans, friends, and even strangers asking the same question: what really happened? It's a question that has haunted many since the news broke, and the more people learn about the details, the more confused they become. Rick wasn't the kind of person you would expect to get caught up in such a scandal. For years he was known for his calm, collected approach to business and life. He seemed like the kind of man who had everything under control, someone who had worked hard to build a business and a reputation based on honesty and trust, and yet here he was, standing in a courtroom receiving a sentence that most people would never have imagined possible for him. For many, the shock wasn't just in the fact that Rick Harrison had been sentenced to life imprisonment, but in how it seemed to happen so suddenly. One moment he was the star of a TV show that millions loved, and the next he was a convicted criminal. Fans began looking for answers, trying to piece together the clues that might explain how such a dramatic fall from grace could have occurred. What led to this moment? Was it a series of bad choices, or was there something much deeper at play? The truth is, there have been whispers for a while now about things not being as perfect as they seemed. While Rick had always been a steady presence on Pawn Stars, there were moments, if you looked closely, where things didn't add up. The way he handled certain situations in the shop, the way he spoke about certain people, there were hints of something that wasn't quite right. But of course, these moments were easy to overlook. He had always presented himself as the calm, wise figure who knew everything about the items in his shop and the history behind them. His knowledge seemed endless, and his ability to make deals was unmatched. Viewers loved him for that. They trusted him. But what they didn't know was that there were things going on behind the scenes that no one could have expected. What if the pressures of fame, the pressures of running a business, and the constant attention began to take their toll on Rick in ways that no one could see? There's always a lot that happens off camera that viewers never get to witness. Rick was a man of many talents, but he was also a man of secrets. What had he been hiding? Was there something in his past that he was trying to outrun, or did something happen recently that pushed him over the edge? There have been rumors that Rick was involved in business dealings that were far more complicated and dangerous than anyone realized. Some people say that he had made enemies, people who didn't like the way he did business, people who were willing to do anything to take him down. Others suggest that Rick may have gotten involved in something illegal without fully understanding the consequences. Maybe it wasn't just one thing that led to his downfall, maybe it was a series of bad decisions little by little that built up and finally caught up with him. But the most curious part of this whole situation is the fact that no one really knows for sure what happened. The details of the case are still vague, and it's unclear exactly what led to the life sentence. Some people believe that Rick was simply the victim of a setup. Perhaps someone framed him, someone who wanted to ruin his life and his reputation. Others believe that Rick may have made a deal with someone he shouldn't have, and things went wrong. It's also possible that he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, a pawn in a larger game that no one saw coming. The courtroom drama was filled with surprises, and every new detail that came out seemed to add more mystery to the case. No one expected Rick to be in the middle of such a mess. He had always seemed so calm, so collected, so in control. How could someone who had built such a successful career, who had become a beloved TV personality, end up in prison for life? It just didn't make sense. And yet here he was, facing charges that could end his life as he knew it. The more people learn about the situation, the more they want to know. What happened in that courtroom? What evidence was presented? Who were the people involved in the case, and what role did they play? Was Rick really guilty, or was he the victim of a miscarriage of justice? These are the questions that everyone is asking. Fans of Pawn Stars are desperately trying to find answers, hoping that one day the full truth will come to light. The mystery is only deepening, and with each new piece of information, the story becomes even more gripping. It's hard not to feel a sense of disbelief. Rick Harrison was a man who seemed to have it all. He had fame, money, success, and respect. He was a symbol of the American dream, a man who worked hard and built something from nothing. And now it seems like that dream has come crashing down in the most unexpected way. Fans feel betrayed. They feel like they don't know who Rick is anymore. They want to understand how it all went wrong. As time passes, people will continue to speculate and search for answers. Rick Harrison's life sentence has left a lot of people with more questions than answers. What drove him to this point? Was it a result of his past mistakes, or was there something deeper at play? The truth is out there, but it might take time for the full story to come to light. In the meantime, Rick's fans will continue to follow the story, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. The mystery of what happened to Rick Harrison is far from over, and it's something that will continue to captivate people for a long time. As the days pass since Rick Harrison's life sentence, the public's curiosity only grows. People are still struggling to understand how the man they once saw as a hard-working businessman and a trusted face on TV could be caught in such a massive scandal. The news hit like a thunderbolt. One moment, Rick was the star of Pawn Stars, a show that made him a household name. The next, he was a convicted criminal, sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. This sudden change has left so many questions unanswered, and the mystery surrounding his conviction is only becoming deeper with time. What makes this situation so fascinating is the fact that Rick Harrison, for all his years of fame, never seemed like the type of person who could end up in a prison cell. He had built a solid career over the years. His knowledge of history, his skill at striking deals, and his down-to-earth personality made him one of the most beloved TV personalities. Fans watched him every week and saw him as a kind of mentor in the world of antiques and rare items. He wasn't flashy or dramatic like some other celebrities. He didn't court controversy or live a life filled with scandals. He came across as genuine, honest, and hardworking, a man who was proud of his business and his family. That's why when the news broke about his life sentence, many people couldn't believe it. It felt almost like something out of a crime drama, an unexpected plot twist that no one saw coming. But what made it even more confusing was the fact that no one really knew what had happened. Sure, the sentence was handed down in court, but the details were still hazy. What exactly was he being accused of? Was it related to something that happened recently, or was it connected to his past? Why had Rick, the man known for his cool-headed demeanor, been sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison? The courtroom proceedings left everyone with more questions than answers. Some of Rick's fans held on to hope, believing that maybe there was a mistake. Maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding, some false evidence that led to his conviction. After all, Rick had always been so careful about his image. He had worked hard to maintain a reputation for honesty and fairness. So why would he suddenly do something that would completely destroy his life? There had to be some kind of mistake, right? That's the hope many fans clung to, even though the reality seemed to be setting in. But then as more information trickled out, the picture became clearer. It wasn't just one event that led to this moment. The truth seemed to be a complicated mix of business deals gone wrong, personal choices that had caught up with him, and people who might have taken advantage of Rick's trust. The deeper people dug into Rick's past, the more they began to wonder if there were signs of his eventual downfall that no one had paid attention to before. Rick had built a reputation as a savvy businessman, someone who understood the world of buying and selling antiques better than almost anyone. He was a hard negotiator, but he also knew how to treat people fairly. That's part of what made him so popular on Pawn Stars. But what many people didn't realize was that running a pawn shop was not as simple as it appeared on TV. There were many deals that were private, that didn't make it into the show, and those deals were sometimes much riskier than they seemed. It wasn't just about haggling over an old coin or a rare watch, it was about dealing with people who had problems of their own, who needed money fast and didn't care where it came from. Rick's shop, like many other businesses in the pawn industry, could be a place where shady deals happened in the shadows. People who were desperate for money sometimes made choices that weren't legal or ethical. Rick may have gotten involved in some of these deals without fully understanding the consequences. It's possible that he became too comfortable in his business world and started making decisions that in hindsight were dangerous. Maybe he trusted the wrong people or overlooked things he should have paid more attention to. As the investigation into his case continues, more details are being revealed about some of the shady characters Rick had worked with over the years. People who might have been involved in activities that Rick didn't fully understand or agree with, but who he worked with anyway. That's what makes this story so complex. It's not just about one mistake, it's about a series of choices that over time built up and led to this shocking end. One of the most curious things about this case is how little anyone really knew about Rick's personal life. On television, he was a familiar face, a figure of authority and knowledge, but how much of that persona was real, and how much was just a carefully crafted image? Rick always seemed like the kind of guy who had his life together. He didn't show signs of stress or personal problems. His business was his life, and he seemed happy with it. But now it seems there were cracks in that image that no one noticed. Maybe the pressures of being constantly watched, the weight of running a business, and the demands of maintaining a public image finally took their toll on him. Or maybe there was something more going on behind the scenes that no one knew about. As the trial continued, the media coverage only intensified. Reporters and social media users dug deeper, trying to uncover every last detail about Rick's past and his involvement in whatever had led to his conviction. The more they uncovered, the more they started to realize that the man they thought they knew was not the same as the one standing in the courtroom. What did Rick know? What had he done? These are the questions that everyone wants answered. The public's thirst for information is insatiable, and with each new piece of the puzzle, the story becomes even more gripping. Some people are still holding out hope that Rick will somehow find a way to clear his name. But the longer the trial goes on, the more unlikely that seems. It's clear that something serious happened, something that can't easily be explained away, and that only makes the mystery surrounding Rick's life more compelling. What will happen next? What other secrets are hidden in the shadows of his past? For now, the only thing that's certain is that the full truth is still waiting to be uncovered. Rick Harrison's life sentence is a story that has kept everyone guessing. People have followed his journey for years, but no one could have predicted this shocking turn of events. Rick, the man known for his calm demeanor, vast knowledge and successful business in the pawn industry, is now behind bars, and people want to know why. What could possibly have happened to bring someone so successful, so well respected, to this point? The mystery surrounding his fall from grace continues to capture the public's imagination, and with each passing day more questions arise. Many people still can't believe that the man who made a living selling antiques and teaching people about history could be involved in something that would land him in prison for life. Rick was always the face of Pawn Stars, the show that made him a household name. His knowledge of rare items, his ability to strike deals, and his down-to-earth personality made him a favorite among viewers. He wasn't flashy like some other celebrities. He wasn't involved in constant scandals or controversy. Instead, he seemed like a regular guy who had found success through hard work and dedication. But the life sentence he now faces has changed everything. Fans are left wondering how this could have happened. What went wrong? Where did the man they admired go? The details of Rick's case remain unclear to many, and the mystery only deepens as more information comes to light. It's easy to assume that a person like Rick, who had achieved so much, would have made wise decisions throughout his life. But it turns out that even the most successful people can make mistakes. Rick's story is a reminder that no one is perfect, and even those who seem to have it all can fall. It's a story that has captured the attention of not just his fans but people all over the world who are eager to understand how someone who seemed to have it all could end up in this situation. As the investigation continues, the picture of what really happened begins to emerge. But the more that's uncovered, the more questions seem to pop up. Was Rick really involved in illegal activities? Was he knowingly part of shady deals? Or was he simply caught up in something he didn't fully understand? These are the questions that keep people on edge. They want to know the full story, but the truth is still out of reach. Some of Rick's supporters believe that he has been unfairly targeted, that the case against him isn't as strong as it seems. Others believe that he made bad choices and is now paying the price for them. Whatever the truth is, it's clear that Rick's life will never be the same. The public's curiosity continues to grow, and people are more determined than ever to figure out what happened. They want to know if Rick really was involved in anything illegal, or if he was just a pawn in a much larger game. There are many theories about how things could have gone so wrong. Some people believe that Rick might have been caught up in illegal activities without realizing the full consequences. After all, the pawn industry can be a dangerous place. There are many people who try to use it to hide money or launder illegal profits. Maybe Rick didn't know the full extent of what was happening around him, and in the end he paid the price. Others speculate that Rick might have been more involved than anyone realizes. Some suggest that he was trying to keep his business successful at any cost, even if it meant bending the rules. If this is true, it would explain why things have turned out the way they did. No one knows for sure, but the mystery surrounding Rick's actions only deepens as more time passes. One of the most intriguing parts of this story is the way people are reacting to it. Many fans are still in shock, unable to accept the idea that their favorite TV star could be guilty of something so serious. They've watched him for years, they've seen him make deals with customers, they've trusted his judgment, and now they're forced to face the possibility that they were wrong about him. It's a tough pill to swallow for anyone who looked up to him. They want to believe that there's been a mistake, that Rick will somehow clear his name. But the longer the case goes on, the more it seems like this is the reality now. The more time passes, the more people start to question everything they thought they knew about Rick. They look back at his life and wonder if there were signs they missed. Were there moments on the show that hinted at something darker? Were there times when Rick seemed less sure of himself, less in control? It's hard to say. It's easy to look at someone's public life and assume that everything is fine, but the truth is no one really knows what's happening behind the scenes. There could have been a lot going on in Rick's personal life, in his business, and in his relationships that no one knew about. That's what makes this story so compelling. There are so many unanswered questions, so many different theories, and so much curiosity about what really happened. Fans of Pawn Stars are left trying to piece together the puzzle, but it's not easy. They want to know what led Rick down this path, but the details are still unclear. They're hoping for answers, but they're also faced with the reality that the truth might not be as simple as they'd like it to be. The story of Rick Harrison is a reminder that life can take unexpected turns. No one is immune to making mistakes, and even the most successful people can find themselves in situations they never expected. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that certain people have it all figured out, that they know exactly what they're doing, and can handle anything that comes their way. But the truth is, life is messy. People make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes have serious consequences. As the investigation continues and more details are revealed, it's clear that Rick's story is far from over. People are still searching for answers, still wondering what happened and why. The mystery surrounding his life sentence will continue to capture attention, and the public's curiosity will only grow as more information is uncovered. Whatever the truth may be, Rick Harrison's fall from grace is a story that will continue to captivate people for years to come. The news about Rick Harrison's life sentence has taken everyone by surprise. For years, people knew him as a businessman and a TV personality who was knowledgeable, calm, and collected. His face was familiar to millions of viewers on Pawn Stars, where he skillfully negotiated deals and shared his knowledge about antiques and collectibles. The show made him a star and gave him a reputation as someone who understood business and history, but now everything has changed. He's been sentenced to life in prison and no one can figure out why. How did this happen? What led to Rick Harrison's shocking fall from grace? At first it was hard to believe. People didn't want to accept that someone they had watched on TV for so long could be caught up in something criminal. Rick Harrison wasn't the kind of person anyone thought would end up behind bars. He always appeared so composed, so in control. He was the voice of reason on Pawn Stars, the one who seemed to have all the answers when it came to buying and selling rare items. He was respected for his knowledge, his work ethic, and his integrity. But now, with his life sentence in place, fans are left questioning everything they thought they knew about him. How did this happen? What did he do? Could this all be a mistake, or was there something darker happening beneath the surface? The details surrounding Rick's case have been slow to come out, but as time goes on, more and more information is being revealed. The mystery only deepens as the public begins to realize that there's much more to the story than anyone first imagined. Was Rick really involved in illegal activities? Did he knowingly make bad decisions that led to his conviction, or was he dragged into something much bigger than himself? These are the questions that everyone is asking, and the more people dig, the more complicated the situation seems to be. One of the most fascinating aspects of this case is how it's forced people to rethink what they know about Rick. Fans who once saw him as a straightforward businessman are now questioning his character. Did he have secrets that no one knew about? Was there more going on in his life than anyone could see on TV? Rick Harrison's public persona was that of a man who had it all together. But the more people learn about his past, the more they realize that things might not have been as perfect as they seemed. The pawn business, like many industries, is full of risks and uncertainties. While many people see pawn shops as places to buy and sell used goods, the truth is that they can sometimes be involved in much more complicated transactions. In Rick's case, it's possible that he became entangled in deals that he didn't fully understand or that he chose to ignore. The pawn world is full of people looking to make a quick profit, and not all of them are honest. Some are willing to engage in illegal activities like money laundering or selling stolen goods to get what they want. Rick might have gotten involved with some of these shady individuals without realizing how deep he was getting into trouble. Others suggest that Rick was more aware of what was going on than anyone realizes. Perhaps he made deals with people he knew weren't trustworthy, hoping to make more money or keep his business running smoothly. If this is the case, it could explain why he ended up in such serious trouble. In the pawn business, as in any other industry, sometimes it's not just about what you know, it's about who you know. And if Rick had been working with the wrong people, it could have led him down a dangerous path that ended with a life sentence. Another theory is that Rick may have simply been caught up in a larger conspiracy that he didn't fully understand. Maybe someone framed him, or maybe he was a part of something bigger than he realized. It's possible that there were people using Rick's business to hide illegal activities or make money through dishonest means. If this is true, it would explain why he's facing such severe charges. No one knows for sure what happened, but the possibility of Rick being a pawn in a larger scheme is something that continues to capture people's imaginations. What makes this case so intriguing is that no one knows the full story yet. Every new piece of information that comes out seems to raise more questions than answers. The details of the case are still being pieced together, and with each new development, the mystery deepens. Rick Harrison's life sentence has become one of the most talked about stories of the year, and people are eager to find out what really happened. What was Rick involved in? What did he know, and when did he know it? Was he truly guilty, or was he caught up in something that was beyond his control? Fans of Pawn Stars are struggling to come to terms with the fact that the man they admired for so long could be involved in something so serious. For many, it feels like a betrayal. They trusted Rick, and now they are left wondering if they were wrong about him all along. The mystery surrounding his case has forced people to rethink their perceptions of him and of the world of pawn shops in general. What was really happening behind the scenes at the gold and silver pawn shop? How much of what they saw on TV was real, and how much was just for show? It's hard to say, but the truth is slowly coming to light. As more information comes out, people are starting to realize that the story of Rick Harrison is much more complicated than they first thought. It's not just a simple case of a businessman making a bad decision, it's a story of how one man got caught up in a world that he didn't fully understand. Whether Rick is guilty or not, his case raises important questions about the nature of business, the risks of fame, and the choices people make when they're faced with difficult situations. At this point, it's unclear what the future holds for Rick Harrison. Will he be able to clear his name, or will he spend the rest of his life behind bars? The public is still waiting for answers, and they're eager to know what happens next. The mystery of Rick Harrison's life sentence has become one of the most compelling stories in recent memory, and it's a story that will continue to captivate people for years to come.